A home is supposed to be your sanctuary, right? A place where you can lock the door and feel safe from the world. But for the people in these stories, their homes became the source of their deepest fears. From a mansion built to outsmart ghosts to a house that was the scene of an unspeakable crime, these are the true stories of when home becomes the most terrifying place on earth. Story number 1. The house built by fear. Imagine being incredibly wealthy but living every single day in paralyzing fear. That was the reality for Sarah Winchester, the heiress to the massive Winchester rifle fortune. After the sudden, tragic deaths of her baby daughter and then her husband, a devastated Sarah looked for answers from a spiritualist. The message she received was chilling. Her family was cursed, haunted by the spirits of every single person killed by a Winchester rifle. The medium told her that these vengeful souls had taken her family, and she would be next unless she appeased them. The solution? Move west and start building a house. And the construction could never stop. As long as the hammers were swinging, her life would be spared. Taking the warning to heart, Sarah moved to San Jose, California, in 1886 and bought a simple 8-room farmhouse. This small house would become the starting point for a project so strange and massive, it's hard to wrap your head around. For the next 38 years, right up until the moment she died, the construction never stopped. With no architect or master plan, the house grew chaotically. Sarah claimed she received her instructions every night from the spirits themselves. What she built wasn't a home. It was a sprawling architectural maze designed purely to confuse the dead. The Winchester Mystery House, as it's now known, ballooned to an incredible 160 rooms, with 2,000 doors, 10,000 windows, as 47 stairways. But none of it made any logical sense. One staircase twists and turns for 44 steps only to rise 9 feet, ending abruptly. Another staircase leads straight into the ceiling. Doors open to solid walls, or even more terrifying, to a 2-story drop to the yard below. Windows were built into floors looking into other rooms. Hallways just became dead ends, and secret passages snaked all through the mansion. Sarah's obsession with the number 13 was everywhere. Bathrooms with 13 windows, windows with 13 panes, and stairways with 13 steps. The constant construction finally ended when Sarah died in 1922. But the house she left behind, built as her fortress against ghosts, is now considered one of America's most haunted places. Staff and visitors report things that suggest the spirits Sarah feared never really left. The most common sighting is a man with a mustache and overalls, nicknamed Clyde, who is thought to be a former handyman. He's often seen in the basement or the ballroom, sometimes pushing a wheelbarrow, forever working on a house that's no longer being built. People also report hearing disembodied voices, feeling phantom taps on their shoulders, and seeing shadow figures darting down the very hallways that were designed to trap them. The house born from one woman's terror now stands as a monument to her fear, a place where the spirits she tried so desperately to confuse seem to have made themselves right at home. Story number 2. The Enfield Poltergeist. Our next story takes us to London, to a modest council house at 284 Green Street in Enfield. In August of 1977, this normal-looking home became the center of one of the most famous and disturbing poltergeist cases in history. It all started small. Peggy Hodgson, a single mother of 4, was putting her kids to bed when they started complaining about shuffling sounds and knocking coming from inside the walls. Peggy figured it was nothing, but the sounds kept coming, getting louder and more insistent. Then, the children's beds started to shake violently all on their own. A panicked Peggy called the police. One of the constables who showed up actually saw a chair wobble and slide across the floor by itself, writing in her official report that she could not determine the cause of the movement. And that was just the beginning. For the next 18 months, the activity in the Hodgson house escalated into what felt like a full-blown spiritual attack, witnessed by over 30 people, including neighbors, reporters, and paranormal investigators. Lego bricks and other toys would launch themselves across rooms at high speeds. Heavy furniture was seen moving and even turning over on its own. Then, a chilling, gravelly voice started speaking through 11-year-old Janet Hodgson. It claimed to be a man named Bill Wilkins who had died in the house. Audio recordings from that time capture this deep, masculine voice coming out of the young girl, something that stumped investigators who tested her for ventriloquism and found no tricks. Investigators from the Society for Psychical Research, Maurice Grosse and Guy Lyon Playfair, documented the terrifying events. They, along with neighbors and even a BBC film crew, saw objects fly, heard the constant knocking, and felt a strange, bone-chilling cold in the house. And all of it, every strange and terrifying event, always seemed to happen around young Janet. The haunting produced some of the most iconic images of paranormal activity ever recorded. Janet apparently levitating. She was seen on several occasions being thrown from her bed or floating in midair. The most famous photos show her in her nightgown, midair, her face twisted in what looks like pain and shock. While skeptics argue she was just jumping, witnesses insisted she was being violently thrown by a force they couldn't see. After 18 terrifying months, the activity in the Enfield house finally faded and then stopped altogether. The Hodgson family was left traumatized. The case is still hotly debated, but for the more than 30 independent witnesses, including police officers, what they saw at 284 Green Street was real. It was a terrifying reminder that sometimes, the walls of your own home can't protect you from what's on the other side. Our final story is not one of spirits or ghosts, but of a horror that is all too real. For a young woman we'll call Clara, her quiet house in a remote neighborhood had always been her safe space. It was the kind of place where the darkness outside made the warm light inside feel even safer. That feeling was completely shattered one winter night. She'd just gotten home, tired after a long shift, and was settling in when she smelled cigarette smoke. It was strange, but she brushed it off and went about her evening. Later, a sudden noise from downstairs woke her up. At first, she wasn't scared, thinking it might be a friend who had a spare key. But a quick check of her phone showed no messages. Then she heard it again, a heavy footstep. Her heart started pounding. She was not alone. Holding her breath, she could hear someone moving slowly, methodically through her house. The footsteps got louder as they came up the stairs. Clara knew she only had seconds. The intruder stormed down the hallway and, in a moment of pure luck, walked right past her bedroom and into the bathroom. That was her only chance. She scrambled out of bed, not even thinking to grab her phone. Her only thought was to hide. Her closet had a small access panel to the attic. Adrenaline pumping, she pulled herself up into the dusty, dark space just as her bedroom door flew open. She lay flat on the wooden beams, her breath caught in her throat. She could hear the man moving around her room, getting more and more frustrated when he couldn't find her. Then, he ripped her closet door open right below her. She could see slices of light from his flashlight cutting through the cracks in the attic floor. He was directly beneath her. Time stood still. After what felt like forever, he slammed the closet door shut. He ran back downstairs, and she heard violent crashing and clattering as he started to destroy her home, throwing furniture and smashing her belongings. Clara stayed frozen in the attic, too terrified to move or even breathe. Eventually, the destruction stopped. She stayed there in the darkness, counting slowly to calm her racing heart. After counting all the way to 1,000, she finally risked climbing down, her body shaking uncontrollably. The house was a wreck, her sense of security shattered into far more pieces than any of her possessions. The police were called, but the intruder was long gone. He hadn't taken anything valuable, leaving only wreckage and the terrifying question of what, or who, he was really looking for. Clara was physically okay, but her home was no longer a sanctuary. It was a crime scene, It was the place she learned that the scariest monsters are real, and sometimes they already have a key. If you'd like to hear more terrifying true stories, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening.